Oh, wow guys, thanks. Thanks for the downgrade. This is exactly what I wanted, to feel even less human. Welcome back to today's minimalist episode of The GRYITH Show. Let's get straight into it with the news. So, the big thing is the Google event happened this week. It was much shorter than usual. They didn't waste a bunch of time talking about how much they care about AI and cloud computing, and they just talked about the Made by Google stuff, of which there are three new things. The Google Home Hub, which is just a Google Home with a screen. The Pixel Slate, which is Pixel Book, but you can detach the screen. And the third thing was, of course, the Pixel 3, which actually looks exactly the same as the first one. The second one, just with a slightly different screen and a slightly different camera, and that's the only difference. So that was the Google event, boiled down for you. There were a few other things, of course. They are finally rolling out their thing that'll allow the Google Assistant to answer phone calls for you, which is fun, I guess. Moving on to our next item. Starlink Battle for Atlas had its digital versions listed on various online stores, and it's interesting because in order to compensate for the fact you won't be getting the toys, the digital versions come with just oodles of the content. For instance, the starter pack costs about £70, and that comes with, on PS4 and Xbox at least, one ship, one pilot, or two if you pre-order it, and 2 weapons. The digital deluxe version, which costs £80, comes with 14 weapons. 14 I believe weapons, 4 or more ships, and something like 6 pilots, which is just ludicrous. In my opinion, just buy the digital version of the game, then go to Amazon and buy the co-op mount. Sure, you won't be able to get the the Star Fox stuff toys, but you gotta take the bad with the good and good with the bad. And that's it for the news. Next, we're moving on to our next segment, which is What About? This is a segment where I talk about a new piece of media that I've experienced for the first time in the last week. This week, it's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Not to be confused with Assassin's Creed Origins or Super Mario Odyssey. I am almost angry at how different this game is from the last. When it was first announced, I thought to myself, maybe Ubisoft haven't changed. We all thought, maybe Ubisoft to change their ways, and they decided to take longer with their games to give us quality over just quantity. But no, Odyssey's coming out, and it's going to be just the same thing as Origins again. Sadly, on one hand, I was wrong. And that's the sad part, because usually I'm never wrong. I'm always right about everything. To sum it up quickly, this game is the Majora's Mask to Origins Ocarina. It reinvented the franchise, added in a bunch of new mechanics, pretty much just remade the gameplay, just with some familiar things. And then the sequel, made in just a year, comes out the very next year and just blows it out the water. It's much more refined. It's got new features that just, Assassin's Creed Odyssey feels like the ultimate Assassin's Creed to me. Like this is it. This is the peak. They're not gonna be able to do any better than this. But mostly because it doesn't really, for the most part, feel like an Assassin's Creed game. It takes elements from previous Assassin's Creed games, including, I'm happy to say, the ship stuff from Assassin's Creed 4, which was previously my favorite Assassin's Creed. It takes the combat from Origins and sort of refines it and makes it even better, although it does take away your shield but replaces it with a more refined dodging system, which sort of reminded me of something, I don't know, just video games, you know? You heard of those? The story's much better in this one. The only major criticism I'd have is that they've clearly really tried to make it so that you buy in-app purchases with this game. You level up way too slowly. You cannot do the story. I am 17 hours in, and I am barely any way through the story. I almost feel like I shouldn't even be reviewing this. It just takes so long to do anything. For not just because it's so slow to give you XP, but because the map is almost too big. It is humongous. There's plenty to do in each area, don't get me wrong, and there's plenty to look at. This is a visually stunning game. There's many landmarks and just take my word for it, it's visually stunning. And a lot of the systems that are in the game really add up to a much more sandboxy experience than Origins. There's also a lot more variety in the missions. It's not just like every other side mission in Origins would just be carry person to place or carry person out of place, and it was really dull. So far I've only actually had one carry person to or from place mission in Odyssey, and I'm glad for it. They've clearly, as I said, it's the Majora's Mask to Origins' Ocarina. It is a more refined version. It has added systems, added gameplay mechanics. It's just, if you skipped out on Origins, definitely get Odyssey. Even if you played Odyssey, if you liked Origins, get Odyssey. It is worth it, and I think a lot of people are skipping out on it because it's not selling super well, probably because a lot of people thought the same thing as I did. It does still suffer some of the same problems in the mission structures as all of the previous games in the entire series, but there's a lot less trailing missions, there's a lot less repetition, it's a lot more varied. It even is very, it's not sparse with combat, but they've added for the first time ever a choices system into the game where you can choose what to ask and say. They've also added in the ability to turn off waypoints initially, so you have to find out from people and the environment where to go, and you just get there based off just what you've been told, and that's actually really fun. But only if you're willing to spend time to actually do that. The voice acting isn't hugely better, and sometimes borders on just being plain hilarious, but it is better than Origins, which has the worst voice acting that I've seen in a video game, in an American video game, or in a Western video game in the last 5 years, at least. Another thing about the side missions is there are actually fun stories in them this time, instead of just being about nothing. Can you find my Book of the Dead? No. Go away. There's actually some interesting things. There's some fun characters and stuff, and, you get things out of it. It's much better at rewarding you for side missions now, except for in XP, which it doesn't ever give you enough of from any kind of mission. Overall, I'm going to give Assassin's Creed Odyssey, call me crazy, but I'm going to give Assassin's Creed Odyssey a gold star, and it may even be a contender in some category of the GRYITH Game Awards, which you can look out for at the beginning of next year. Moving on to our next segment, They Want to Believe. This week we're talking about a website called Birds Aren't Real. Now I want to preface this by saying that I wholeheartedly believe that this is a joke, just a very in-character joke. You can tell from the videos, you can tell from just the way it's all structured. It's a ridiculous concept, and I do wholeheartedly believe that it's a joke. I am not falling for any kind of pranks here. You're not pulling the wool over my eyes. But Birds Aren't Real is a movement which tries to reveal the truth to people that Birds died out in 2001 and were replaced by drones which monitor us constantly. And the government calls these birds. Pigeons? Yeah, they're gonna get you. What you gonna do, you know? You can go to their website. It's pretty hilarious. They've got a Twitter. They have videos. It's honestly really funny stuff. And I'm even tempted to buy some of the merchandise just because, like, going around with a shirt on that says "Birds aren't real." It's great. That's just a great idea. Not that I'm going anywhere anytime soon. Moving on to our final segment. Cryptid of the Week. This week's cryptid is Ajitar. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but Ajitar. This is a female demon who sometimes appears as a woman, with hair to her heels and breasts to her knees, and sometimes as an antlered serpent. Man, there are just so many serpents in Finland and Norway. There's just so many giant snakes. Anyway, she gained the name the Devil of the Woods. Some say she is the daughter of Hisi, the master of the woods and spreader of disease, but that she is also in charge of gnomes and a creature who can induce a pheromone frenzy called Lempo. So if you're ever in some Finnish mountains, actually you'd probably know to stay away if you saw her in either of her forms, but if you do see her, she can induce disease just by being looked at, so, you know, just don't go to Finland, or Norway, or where else have we covered? The Gobi Desert. Honestly, just probably don't leave the house. It's probably for the best. Anyway, that's all for this week. If you liked what you saw here, please feel free to subscribe. I do one of these every single week, and I do other videos in between. Feel free to leave a like to support this video and this channel, or a dislike if you hate, or a dislike if you think this was actually a bad video. How about that? How about I don't manipulate you? How about you also donate to my Patreon and follow me on Twitter and Twitch, where I stream video games occasionally, often virtual reality games, because living inside a series of mega servers, virtual reality is pretty easy to run for me. Most video games are. Anywho, see you next week. Goodbye.